Okay, class. Let's stand and let us pray. Kind Camille, kindly lead the prayer.
Let us bow our head and feel the presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Our Lady of Piat,
Pray for us.
in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Good morning, class.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
sir.
Before you take your seats, kindly pick up the trash under your chair and arrange your chair properly. You may take your seats now. And is there anybody who is absent today, Miss Secretary?
Nobody is absent today, sir.
Very good, class. And now we have new topic in economics. Are you excited?
Yes, sir.
You should be excited. I prepared here a simple activity called arranging. And the mechanics of this game is fix the jumbled letter into a word. For example, and it turns to consumer. And now just raise your hand if you want to recite.
Sir,
Jason?
economics.
Good, very good, Jason.
Sir.
Christian?
Market.
Very good, Christian. And lastly, Camille?
Firm, sir.
Very good, Camille. Do you have any idea regarding to the activity we did to our new topic? Jason?
It talks about market, sir.
Yes, it has relationship to the market. And now, let's discuss the definitions of market. Anybody who wants to read the definitions of market?
Sir.
Camille?
Market is a place where there are many sellers and buyers.
Correct. And also, here in market, actively engaged in buying and selling stocks. And now, let's move to the market structure. Anybody wants to read market structure, please? Jason?
Market structure refers to how different industries are classified based on their degree and services. According to J.C. Edwards, a market is that mechanism by which buyer and seller are bought together. It is not necessarily a fixed place.
Yes. And also, here in market structure, different industries are classified in degree of competitions and natures of goods and services. And there are four things should be considered in market structure. First, type of products. Two, number and size of seller and buyer. Three, transparency of information. And lastly, conditions of entry and exit. And now, let us tackle the characteristics of market. Characteristics of market. One, commodity. Who wants to read the definitions of one commodity? Christine?
One commodity. A market is not related to a place but to a particular product. Hence, there are separate for various commodities.
Yes. And also here in one commodities, there are separate markets, for example, jewelries, clothes, grain, and etc. And area. Want to read, Jason?
Area. A market does not mean a particular place, but the whole region where sellers and buyers of a product are spread. Modern modes of communication and transport have made the market area for a product very wide.
Any insights in area, Jason?
It talks about the place where buying and selling occurs.
Yes, that's correct. And also, this is a particular place as a whole region. And also, let's move to the buyers and sellers. Again,
Buyers and sellers. The presence of buyers and sellers is necessary for the sale and purchase of a product in the market.
and also, buyers and sellers is not necessary in the market because they can do transactions of goods through letters, internet, telephone, and etc. One price. One price. The price of product is the same in the market because of the free competitions among buyers and sellers. That's why the Department of Trade and Industry imposed a suggested retail price to avoid biases in the market. And last, free competition. Free competition. There should be free competition among buyers and sellers in the market. This competition is in relation to the price determinations of a product among buyers and sellers. In here, this activity happen to get the attention of buyers in an expensive price. And now, let's proceed to the classifications of market. Classifications of market on the basis of area or region, time, functions, nature of commodity, and legality. And now, let's tackle the area or region. In here, the local market wants to read again.
The local market. If sellers and buyers of a commodity are limited to a certain area or region.
Correct. In here, in the local market, it has a limit. It has something to do in the limited commodities which cannot support or the needs and wants of people in a certain local area. Right now, in the regional market, Jason.
Buyers and sellers of a commodity are combined to certain region as province.
For example, here in the Labonia in Rajasthan. And now, once we read the definition of national market, is
The regional market, when sellers and buyers are not combined to state boundary but are spread throughout the country. They are demanded throughout the nation.
in here, the demand for the good is limited in the specific country. And also in the international market, when buyers and sellers are spread across the geographical boundary of a nation, our demand is universal. In here, it has something to do in the universal trading system. For example, market of gold and silver. And now, let's proceed to the time. Very short period of market. It can be classified into daily perishable product or weekly market on any specific day. Here, it has something to do with the transactions of in a short period of time for few hours or days. Now, let's proceed to the short period of market. In this supply of product can be increased, but we can make any changes in production according to change demand. Who can give the any insight regarding this short period of market? Anyone? Anyone in the class? No one did. Okay? In here, the short period of market, the demand of goods is slightly increased because of scaling production. Now, let's proceed to the low period market, which we can make necessary changes in plant and machinery as well as increase in supply of product according to its demand. For example, here is the smartphones and cars. Very long period market, there can be large charge in supply of product and demand also increase because of changes of population, habits, taste, and etc. We all know that if the population is increased, the demand also increases. Now, let's move to the functions of market. General market. Who wants to the definitions of general market? Camille?
General market, when different products are transacted at the same time in a market.
Yes. In here, general market is when all the various products are sold in the market at the same time. And now, what's the next specialized market, Jason?
When only one product or any special product is transacted in a market.
Yes. Example here in specialized market are the prescriptions drugs market, travel market, and trade market. Marketing by samples is good.
Marketing by samples. The firms that need to show full of their product, that just only send sample to their agents.
Yes, this usually happen in company to promote their products. And lastly, marketing by grading. The product is first graded according to its quality and then put forth in selling. In here, the quality of product is strictly graded before it's sold to the market. And now, we discuss the nature of commodity. Stock, stock market. Who wants to read the definitions of stock market? Jason?
Stock market, the collection of exchanges and other revenues where the buying, selling, and issuance of share publicly held companies takes place.
Correct. This is stock market. This is a activity where they can sell their shares and to sell investment. And now let's proceed to the product market again.
Product market, where final goods or services are sold to businesses and public sector.
In here, in product market, all kinds of goods are made and traded. For example, the smartphones and cars. Bullion market, anyone? Is it?
Bullion market, which buyers and sellers trade gold and silver as well as associated derivatives.
In here, in bullion market, it is also known as the grading market trading platform for golds and silver. And now, let us tackle the legality. Here in legality, there is legal market. Legal market include business development activities and increasing revenue. Anyone? Anyone who have insight in legal market? Jason?
Uh, a legal market, it has something to do with, uh, it is associated with government channels.
Yes, correct. And also here in legal market, there's the approval of the government to to get a permit to run your businesses. And also, here in illegal market is an economic activity that occurs outside of government sanctioned channels. In here, it is exists in the demand in the developed economies and command economies. And here, any question, class?
None,
None, sir.
sir.
Okay. If that's so, let's proceed to our last activity called quiz B. I will group you into three. This will be the group 1, group 2, and group 3. And the mechanics of the game is, if you know the answer, just raise your paper, and whoever got the highest point was declared the winner. But before that, I will remove first the visual aids to remove and to avoid cheating. Jason, can you try to help me remove the visual aids? Thank you, Jason. Go back to your seats now. Are you ready, class?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. And also, I will repeat the question twice. Okay? Okay, so listen carefully. Number 1. According to him, a market is that mechanism by which buyers and sellers are bought together. According to him, a market is that mechanism by which buyers and sellers are bought together. Raise your paper now. Jason get correct the answer. Let's stop from him. Okay, 1 point for Jason. Number 2, a place where there are buyers and sellers. Number 2, a place where there are buyers and sellers. Okay, raise your paper now. Yeah, Camille got the correct answer for number 2. Let's come here. All 1 for Camille and Jason. And for the number 3, the firms that need to show all their product. The firms that need to show their whole product. Okay, raise your paper now. Kristine got the correct answer. Let's clap for her. Camille got 1 point, Jason got 1 point, and Kristine got 1 point. And now for the 4th questions, there are separate for various commodities. There are separate various commodities. Raise your paper now. Only Jason get correct the answer. 2 points for Jason. Clap for him. And now, for the last questions, refers to how different industries are classified based on their degree. Last, refers to how different industries are classified based on their degree. Raise your paper now. Can you answer market, 1 commodity, marketing rate? I'm sorry class, no one got correct the answer. The refers to how different industries are classified based on their degree is market structure. And that's the end of our discussions. But before that, let's clap for Jason who got the highest point. Thank you class, and let's meet tomorrow for another new discussion. Thank you class. And keep it up the good work for the good cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, class.
Good
morning, ma'am.
So today, recall the past topic of Mr. ROGIN had discussed a while ago. Who among you can recall your past topic?
Ma'am,
Yes, Jason?
about classifications of market structure.
Yeah, correct. So now, let's move on to the different types of market structures. So class, sino sa inyo ang may ideya about sa different types of market structure? Anyone? Jason?
Monopoly, ma'am.
Yes, monopoly. Another idea? Roger.
Oligopoly, ma'am.
Correct. Ano pa? Besides sa dalawang nabanggit, ano pa? Miss Camille.
I don't have any idea.
Okay. So, let's move on to the topic. So now, I want Miss Camille to read the first market structure.
Perfect competition. It is a market structure where there are large numbers of sellers. The price of the product is determined by the industry. There are a large number of producers and consumers competing with another in this kind of environment.
So, perfect competition competition is homogeneous products, meaning they are perfect substitute and buyers perceive no actual or real difference between the products offered by different firms. So, example is agriculture. Sa agriculture natin, example, yung mga gulay, prutas, at grains, oil, ganon. So, online selling, di ba? Sa panahon ngayon, lalo ngayong pandemic, madaming nag-online selling, di ba? Madami sila.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, foreign exchange. Sa foreign exchange, yung swapping ng US dollar and sa peso. Foreign exchange means these transactions are known as the forex market. So, let's move on to monopoly competition. From the word mono, isa lang, single. So, I want Rogie to read the definition of monopoly competition.
Monopoly competition. It is a market structure in which there is only a single seller of the product. One firm has full control over the supply of the product. The monopoly firms will restrict output, raise prices, and enjoy supernormal profits in the long run.
Yes, thank you. So, one firm has full control over the supply of the product, meaning a monopolistic market is the opposite of a perfectly competition, in which an infinite meaning limitless or endless, limitless number of firms operate. The monopoly firm can restrict output, raise prices, and enjoy supernormal profits in the long run. So, the term monopoly is originated in English law to describe a royal grant. Such a grant authorizes one merchant or company to trade in particular good while no other merchant can do so. So, for example, is the providers of water, telecommunications, and electricity. So, sa monopoly class ay single firm lang sila. Okay? So, let's move on to the characteristics of monopoly. So before we move on to the characteristics of monopsony, let's first discuss the two types of monopoly. Monopoly. So Miss Camille, kindly read the first type of monopoly.
Natural monopoly. A market that runs most efficiently monopoly when one large firm supply everything. Example, public water and public energy.
Yeah, thank you. Natural monopoly. Sa natural monopoly class is yung ginagamit natin na public water and public energy. And then, there's a technological monopoly. ROGIN.
Technological monopoly gives investors exclusive rights to sell for a certain period of time. Example.
So now, let's move on to the third type of market structure, which is the oligopoly competition. So class, what is oligopoly competition? An oligopoly is a market structure in which a market or industry is dominated by a small number of large sellers or producers. The number of firms is small enough to give each firm some market power. For example, is cable television, auto industry, commercial air travel, and oil industry. So class, sa tingin nyo, ano ang pinagkakaiba ng tatlong market structures? Jason.
Sa perfect competition, ma'am, marami yung firms. Sa monopoly, isa lang ang firm. And then sa oligopoly, ma'am, konti lang yung firm, pero marami yung sellers.
Tama. So let's move on to the types of oligopoly. Who wants to read the first type of oligopoly? ROGIN.
Duopoly is a type of oligopoly market with only two sellers.
Cartel, Jason.
It's another type of oligopoly which refers to a situation wherein firms agree to cooperate with one another to behave as if they were single firms and thus eliminate competitive behavior among them.
Okay. And the third one is, please come in and you.
Collusion. It is a oligopoly type, also known as formal or an informal agreement among firms to adopt policies that will restrict the level of competition in the market.
So, yun. So, guys, sa tingin nyo, ano ang pinakamagandang type ng oligopoly? Sa tingin nyo? Yes, ROGIN.
Oligopoly cartel because there's an agreement with both parties with whether they raise the prices or not. This is can be the this can be the assets of the businessman.
Assets of the businessman. Another idea. Yes, Miss Camille?
I think the best types of oligopoly is the collusion one because in collusion there is an agreement among the firms and they also adopt policies that will restrict the level of competition in the market.
Yes. So, based sa inyong opinion, magkakaiba kayo ng mga opinion about sa types ng oligopoly. Di ba? May kanya-kanya kayong opinion. So, ngayon, tignan naman natin yung characteristics ng oligopoly market. So, dito sa oligopoly market class, complex market structure. What do you mean by complex market structure? Ano sa ideya nyo yung complex market structure? Complex.
Komplikado.
Meaning complicated. So, dito sa oligopoly market class, mahirap yung pag-entry at pag-exit sa business na ito. So, kailangan kapag pumasok ka na dito, dapat buo na yung loob mo, no? Matatag yung loob mo pag pumasok ka sa type ng business ng oligopoly market. So, next is price rigidity and price war. Merong nagaganap na alitan sa oligopoly market. Hindi yung alitan na nag-aaway-away sila, yung price ng kanilang binibentang produkto. And then, there is interdependence of the firms. Relatively small number of sellers and selling costs. And then, And then let's move on to the fourth type of market structure, which is the monopolistic competition. So, Rogin, can kindly read what is the meaning of monopolistic competition?
Monopolistic competition. It is a midway between perfect competitions among and monopoly. The number of buyers and sellers are relatively low.
So dito naman class sa monopolistic competition, it is a midway between perfect competition and monopoly. The number of buyers and sellers are relatively low. So what do you mean by midway between perfect competition and monopoly? Anyone?
Ma'am, it is a midway, ma'am, kasi sa perfect competition, marami ang buyers and sellers. And sa monopoly, iisa lang kasi yung seller doon, ma'am. So sa monopolistic, konti lang. Since it is the midway of perfect competition, monopoly.
Okay, tama. So, monopolistic competition, meaning there are many producers competing against each other but selling products that are differentiated from one another and hence are not perfect substitutes. So, ang monopolistic competition class is first identified in the 1930s by American economist Edward Chamberlain and English economist Joan Robinson. So, class, dito sa monopolistic competition, a firm takes the prices charged by its rivals as given and ignores the impact of its own prices of other firms. So, monopolistic competitive markets. Monopolistic competitive markets have products that are highly differentiated, meaning that there are perception that the goods are different for reasons other than price. Have many firms providing the good or services. Firms can freely enter and exit in the long run, unlike sa oligopoly na mahirap mag-exit at mag-enter sa business. Firms can make decisions independently. There is some degree of market power, meaning producers have some control over price. So yung mga producers na dito yung makokontrol sa presyo ng mga products nila. And then, last is, buyers and sellers have imperfect information. So, class, ano pagkakaintindi nyo dito? Buyers and sellers have imperfect information. Anyone? Okay, wala. So, buyers and sellers have imperfect information class. So, meaning, dito class is, di ba, example, si Jason at saka si Rogin, di ba, magka-confidensya sila. So, bawat isa sa kanila is merong kanya-kanyang ano sa paninda nila, di ba? Pag-market sa paninda nila. And then, examples of monopolistic competition class, restaurants. So, restaurants compete on quality of foods as much as price. There are relatively low barriers to entry on setting up a new restaurant. So, restaurant class, maganda daw yun kasi there are relatively low barriers to entry on setting up a new restaurant. Walang masyadong sagabal, no? Sa pag-entry sa ganitong business. And then, hairdressers, a service which will give firms a reputation for the quality of their hair cutting. Clothing. Designer label clothes are about the brand and product differentiation. So, mahilig naman siguro kayo sa different brands ng clothing. Ano yung mga alam nyo na different brands of clothing natin? Levi's, di ba? Wrangler, Pepe Jeans, Lee, ganon. Next, TV programs. Globalization the diversity of TV programs from networks around the world. Consumers can choose between domestic channels but also import from other countries such as Netflix. So, sino sa inyo kasi mahilig manood sa Netflix? Yes,
Hindi.
so, mahilig ka no?
Hindi
Diba?
pala TV program, hindi.
Ano yung mga movies na napanood nyo na sa Netflix Plus? Mag-share kayo, tapos papanoorin ko rin.
I don't watch.
That's one of Netflix.
Hindi kayo fan ng Netflix?
Mahal kasi.
Oo, nung mahal ang bayad sa Netflix.
Yes,
Bawal
ma'am.
movie, babayaran.
The MB's costing.
Yeah. Other examples ng monopolistic competition is plumbers, electricians, local builders, private schools, health clubs, estate agents, and funeral directors. So yung funeraria pala is is monopolistic competition dito, no? Next. So let's move on to the last part of market structure or last type of market structure, which is the monopsony. So class, monopsony, it refers to a situation in which a product or service is only bought and or used by one customer. Isa lang daw yung gumagamit sa mga produkto nila, isang tao lang o isang customer lang. The buyer is called monopsonist. So pure monopsony is a firm that is only buyer of labor in an isolated town. Such a firm is able to pay lower wages than it would under competition. So class, dito binabayaran na nila yung yung mga binabayaran na nila yung ibang ibang firm para sila na lang yung mag-run ng business. Kasi ayaw nila ng nagka-competensya. So, example is Walmart, Microsoft, and Google. So, agree ba kayo guys na yung Walmart, Microsoft, and Google are under monopsony? Any idea or any reaction?
Yes.
Yes, so okay. So let's move on to the characteristics of monopsony. Kindly read ROGIN.
Single firm buying or output in the market. No alternative buyers. Restrictions on no entry into industry. Exercises its market power by buying. Buying at a price below the price that competitive buyers would pay. No.
Okay. So dito sa exercises, its market power by buying at a price below the price that competitive buyers would pay. Jason, ano sa tingin mo ang meaning nito? Exercises its market power by buying at a price below the price.
Exercises its market power by buying at a price below the price that competitive buyers would pay. Ito yung bibilihin nila yung product below its fixed price. Then sila na yung mag-a-adjust ng price na yun para i-sell sa iba to gain profit naman.
Okay, tama, di ba? May pagkabalat din sila sa monopsony. Balat sila, bibili nila ng mura tapos ibebenta nila ng mahal. Balat sila, guys. Class.
That's also business.
Yeah, business is business, sinasabi nila, no?
Okay.
Okay, class, before the end of our discussion, I want you to take down your assignments. So, number 1, how do you identify market structure? How do you identify market structure? Next, compare and contrast the different types of market structure. Compare and contrast the different types of market structure.
Number
3, how do market structure affect the economy? How do the market market structure affect the economy? Okay, class, finish?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's the end of our discussion. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you,
We'll see you
ma'am.
next week.
Thank you, ma'am.